the greatest tool that you can develop in your arsenal to changing your life is the one that, well, for obvious reasons, is the hardest. And that tool is the skill of consistency. I've said many a times that there are 3 key things that you require to change your life. You need effort, you need intensity, and then you need to back it all up with consistency. Now, I get a lot of comments about this one, and I got one specifically and from a guy, and so I wanted to make this video for him. And I think you'll know who it is. And it's about what are the tools you can use to help you achieve the consistency. Because it is a difficult thing. That initial change, that initial spark of motivation is not super easy, but easier, because there's usually something going on. There's usually a driving force that has, well, initiated that moment. And I've discussed it before, but we'll cover it again here. And usually the reason is that you're in pain. You're in some form of discomfort, pain, suffering, whatever terminology you want to use, that reaches a certain point that makes you go, all right, I'm here now. I cannot continue to stay in this. I have to do something to change. I have to, whether that's health, fitness, money, relationships, whatever the situation is, you reach a point where you go, enough is enough, I must change. And we spoke about the beta paradox before, which is the irony of the situation is that if it's not so bad, you won't change. That it actually requires you to get to a worse situation. If you'd be better off in a worse situation because it would force you to change than a okay situation. And there's a strong linkage in this to how you build consistency. Now, I'm actually thinking I might make this into a series across the next few days to really dive in deep, because there are a lot of things to cover on this, because the truth of the matter comes down to you need to find the thing that then resonates with you. I can give you all the different options under the sun, but you need to find the one that tickles your brain, that, you know, ticks the box for you, that is really going to force you into the consistency. And the other side of it is, it might change as you progress forward. As I said, when you first start out, for the majority of people, running away from pain is why they make a change. They are in a discomfort, they are in a situation, they are in a position that they don't like, and they want to build something different. Therefore, they are willing to sacrifice, whether that's time, money, effort, to reach a better situation. And we've talked about it before, that you've got the heaven and hell situation, that it's much, much easier to force change based on a negative situation than it is to force change on the pursuit of a positive situation. Because, well, in a positive situation, you don't know what that feels like. You assume that it'll be great. So, like, let's just use the body, for example. You go, I want to be in great shape. And if you've never been there before, you assume that it'll feel good. You assume that what the emotions will be and how great your body will feel and how much energy you'll have and all this kind of stuff. But because you don't actually have a foundational basis for it, as you are putting in effort, as you are putting in work, and you will have to put in work, you will have to give effort, you will have to get uncomfortable. There is a bit of suffering that is required in the pursuit of that goal. And when we talk about consistency, after a while, when that excitement, that newness, that running away from pain has worn off, there's a bit of, well, you can convince yourself that it's not that good. You can convince yourself that this is good enough, that you've reached far enough, that you've done enough, and that you'll pull back. And this is the trap. I've said it before and I'll say it again. One of the biggest dream killers and results killer of all time is the phrase, good enough. Because nothing, and I mean nothing, is more detrimental than that thought process that, well, this is probably good enough. I'm better than I was before. I'm no longer in that, unbearable pain or suffering or situation that I cannot handle for another day, for another moment. You've now reached a point and you're like, oh, good enough. Therefore you quit. So the starting point I would have when we're talking about consistency, as I said, I'm probably going to turn this into a series because I really want to help this guy out. He's already really engaging and he's really taking the steps forward, but consistency is fucking hard. It really, really is. So the first thing I would do is when you're mapping out, and I think you should map out the change, I think you really need to focus in on why you're making this change. Like really attach some emotions and some feelings to the situation that you're currently in. Attach feelings and emotions to why you don't want to stay in this situation and why it is unbearable to continue being this version of yourself and why you must change. I think that's a really, really important thing because it also allows you to revisit it as you go through this process. Because the honest to God truth is, and you, whether you're aware of it consciously or subconsciously, is that if you stop doing the things that you're doing with this change right now, you will revert back and you will end up in this situation. That's why people yo-yo. It's why yo-yoing, dieting and everything is so, so prevalent that you just go up and down, up and down, up and down on this. So I would really, and I would handwrite it. So there is a very definitive difference between, thinking about, then typing out or on your phone, and then to physically handwriting it. It cements it deeper into your memory. It attaches a deeper cognitive connection to the thing. And then you have a physical annotation of, this is where I'm at. And I would try and get as brutally honest with yourself about where you are. Really dig in deep and go, this is the current situation. This is the current reality of my life. And look, I don't know where that is for you. But if I go back to who I was when I started this journey, 550 odd days ago, I was overweight. I had man tits. I hated the man in the mirror. I didn't want to take off my shirt. I was disgusted by the man I was. I had health scares. I ended up in hospital for my heart. I had all these things. I had children. I am the sole provider for my family. My wife is a stay-at-home mum. I have 2 young kids. And I was pissing away my life pretending that I was fit, strong, and healthy. And it was a fucking lie. So I need to anchor to those feelings because that's how it creeps back. When you lose that touch of how bad that situation was. So if I was to do it now, if I was still in that situation, I would write it all down. I would go, this is how I feel when I look in the mirror. One of the really catalysts, and you can tell that it mattered and it hit home, was my daughter asked me why my boobs were bigger than mummy's. Talk about a gut punch. Kids don't pull their fucking punches. They just, bam, right there, right in the sucker. And, that was really whew, okay. And I had to have those moments of going, well, what am I doing? And so I would write it all down. I would write the feelings. I would write the emotions. I would try and paint that picture as clearly as I could. And every time I feel like slacking off, every time I think about avoiding it, every time I think about pulling back, I would revisit that and be like, oh, if I don't keep going forward, this is where I'm going to end up. And now people think of this as quite a negative way to view it. But as I said, the annotations of a positive, it doesn't have the same pull. It doesn't have the same excitement. It doesn't have the same drive and motivation. Everybody wants to be in better shape. Everybody wants to be wealthier. Everybody wants a better life. But that doesn't mean that they get it because, well, the idea of doing the work and paying the price, and as I said, there is sacrifice, there is cost, there is investment of time, money, effort involved in doing these things. It's much easier to justify staying where you are when it's about reaching for something better. That you can convince yourself that the situation you're in right now isn't that bad and you don't actually need those positive things that you want. It's much, much easier to do it that way. But if you're in pain, if you're in suffering, if you know the situation that you're in, and you can viscerally feel it, well, then you have something that will keep pushing you forward. And as I said, I'm actually going to make this into a series as I'm just talking this through, because I'm like, oh, there are all these other points I want to go into. But I want to actually give you justice on this. I want to give you the details. So I think this will probably end up being a 7 or 8 part series to give you all the details on it. But that would be my number one. I would really, really map out where you currently are and why you dislike it and why you don't want to continue staying in that situation. And then go deeper. What will happen? What is the cost of staying where you are right now? What is the cost to you? And I would dig in deep. And again, we'll go health and fitness. So if you're overweight, if you're, unhealthy, if you're eating bad foods, if you're drinking, if you're sedating, if you're eating junk food all the time, dig into it. Are you going to get diabetes? Are you on the brink of being an alcoholic? Are you, how does that affect your children, your wife, those who love and adore you? What are the consequences of this? If you continue down this path, are you likely to end up in hospital? Are you likely to get a disease? Are you likely to die from this? Like, I would make it, and it sounds really bad, but as I said, pain is one of the biggest motivators and drivers of change. So map it all out. Map out every dark moment. Map out every negative possibility. What is the cost to you of not changing? What are you sacrificing? What are you giving up? What are you not gaining from this? And what are you likely to end up? Like, how bad could this get if you don't make this shift? Really drive in that pain. So then you have that. And as I said, I would handwrite it. I would just, stream of consciousness, all of it out, so that you can really have this clear picture of what it's going to cost if you don't do this, what it's going to cost you to not become the man that you should be. And you can go down, as I said, go as dark as necessary. And I will give other ways that we can do this, because it's about what's going to tickle your brain, what's going to give you that boost to do it. But pain is a really strong motivator. To me, it's still one of the ones. I look back at who I was because I let myself slip back into that. And I was ashamed. I was disgusted. I was worried that I was going to die. And then what? What was going to happen for my children? What was going to happen for my wife? I am the sole provider. My entire family depends on my ability to work and my ability to provide. I need to be strong, fit, and healthy. I need to be able to go out there every day and rock it. I need to not just turn up, but be the best fucking version I can be. That is a deeply, deeply empowering moment. And it's on the days that I don't want to do this, on the days that I don't feel like showing the fuck up, I think back to that. I think about my daughter's face. I think about my son. I think about what could have happened if I hadn't have turned it around. I think about how much I have to lose if I refuse to do the work, if I decide to become a selfish motherfucker and not do what is necessary. And people don't view it that way. They look at it as, oh, I'm looking after me. No, you're not. Not doing the work is not looking after you. People want to talk about this concept of, oh, well, I need a me day, or I need to, recalibrate, or this kind of stuff. It's okay to have a special treat because I've had a hard week. No, you double down fucking harder. You do the work better. You push further. You really dig in deep. You don't reward yourself with sedation. You reward yourself with success. You reward yourself by doing the work to keep building forward. You can't take your foot off the gas. And I think this is part of it, and I'll talk about it tomorrow, because I think actually the next one is about every single day. It's about building the habit. It's about the consistency factor, and it's about how you choose to structure out those habits. So I'll talk about that tomorrow. But this concept of that you've earned a day off, you've earned the right to drink alcohol, you've earned the right to, eat the junk food again. No. You need to shift the paradigm, and the consistency will come and double down when you start to think about it in the concept of, well, this is who I actually am. I do this, like I exercise for my mental health. I exercise to be the strongest, fittest version of myself. I exercise so that I can do anything I want at any moment, at any time. I eat right to fuel my body and give me the energy to do these things. It isn't a punishment, it is a reward. But that's a whole different video. That is a whole different concept that we are going to cover. And as I said, I think I'm actually going to make this into probably, we'll see how many videos, but potentially 7 videos to really, really double down on this for you and give you the concepts and the tools that you need to build the consistency and find the one that is going to tickle your brain. As I said, it might vary, and as you progress in this journey, there might be different versions for it. It just comes down to where you're at and what's going to give you the results that you need. So I hope that one starts the help. I hope that's the beginning of the journey, and I hope it gives you an idea of, well, what you can do. And as always, I'll be back again tomorrow, but until then, keep demanding greatness, and I'll talk to you soon.